Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, we take a look back at the 1978 Kiss solo album project. We'll talk about which of the albums were our favorites and least favorites, and what we thought about the project as a whole. We look forward to hearing your comments and feedback as well. Also, you'll want to make sure to check out episodes 69 through 72, where we talk about each of the individual Kiss solo albums one by one and go track by track about what we like and don't like about each of the individual albums. This episode is to wrap it all up in a bow and talk about the project as a whole. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. Now, without further ado, let's jump in and start our conversation on the Kiss solo album project. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. Once again, I am super excited to have with me, as I always say, my partner in crime, Mr. Vincent LaRussa. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Excellent. So this is the fifth and I'll say sadly final episode we'll be doing on the solo albums. Up to this point, we've done an episode on each of the albums individually. You can go check those out, YouTube, Spotify, any place that you listen to podcasts. But this one is going to be where we talk about the solo album project in totality, what we thought about the project. We'll give you our ranking of the four albums. We'll create our best of solo albums, so on and so forth. So why don't we just jump right in, buddy?
Okay, let's do it.
So looking back, right, it's been what, 30 something, almost 40 years, I guess, 40 years since this happened. To my knowledge, there's never been another band, certainly of Kiss's stature, before or after, that ever did anything like this. Do you know of any other artists? I think the Melvins did something like this where like they put I know they did like a twist of the album covers, but
yeah,
to my knowledge, there's no other band that ever did anything like this, right?
No, same day release, all the hype that went behind it. You remember there was the billboards that would, and the magazine not articles, ads that would just have the 4 blank spaces, which, coming soon, I think it would say. And
Yep. And it was the white thing with like just blank spaces, like you're saying. Yep, absolutely.
Casablanca was great at that stuff. I missed that part of our musical lives.
I agree.
Before there was all this, downloading and iPods and all these other electronic. Although there's a lot of good in that stuff, but me, I'm an old school guy. So
absolutely. Now, I look back on it and I think of it, like I said, I don't know of any other bands that ever did this, but if I was going to think of bands that could have done this, right, the Beatles clearly come to mind, right? The Beatles could have done something like this before Kiss ever did. They certainly, all 4 members. But after Kiss, so after 1978, I try to think of what other bands could have maybe done something like this. The only one that ever comes to my mind as a maybe, is somebody like Motley Crue, where I feel like all 4 members, like people were interested in what Tommy Lee was doing, Mick Mars, so on and so forth. Any artists that you could think of that maybe could have even pulled off something like this?
Well, maybe the Eagles.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, I like that. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, I wasn't prepared. Like we always say, we don't discuss, so I don't know what you're gonna hit me with. But right off the top of my head, because Don Henley, drummer, sang.
Yep.
Glenn Frey, Joe Walsh, I think even Don Felder and some of the other. The bass player Randy Meisner, who did Take It to the Limit. He had the real high voice. So I think the Eagles is like the next best thing. I think it would have been something really good because each one of those artists had really successful solo careers.
That's great. So, and the reason I started here and I hit you with this as a surprise is because some people do criticize like the Peter Criss album, right? Which when we reviewed it, we both said there's a lot of good songs on there. But when you look at this and you look at what Kiss tried to do here as a project and what they successfully did, is really, my point being, very few bands in the history of rock and roll that could have tried and successfully did something like what they did here.
And the thing is, up until this point, Kiss had already established all four guys who had successful songs on records, or they played them in concert. At this point, Ace had "Shock Me" on Love Gun. You know, up until Love Gun, you knew he had songwriting credits, but you hadn't heard him yet as a vocalist. So they had kind of established the base. So everyone, it would have been, I think, imagine if Ace didn't have that one song he released a solo album. Now no one really would have heard what his voice sounded like alone. So
Right.
I don't know if that factored into it or if it just purely was the timing of how everything worked out, but
absolutely,
you know, so.
Absolutely. No, and you know, and you're saying that and spot on. Obviously, you're talking about "Shock Me." Let's not forget he also had "Rocket Ride." But yes, to your point,
right?
But it all happened all within that same like 1 year period, right? Love Gun came out in June of '77. The solo albums were a little over a year later. So your point is still to me 100% valid. That up until a year beforehand, Ace was the guy in concert that was kind of like a little further back from the others, maybe closer to the amplifiers, just like doing his electric guitar. If you look at like the videos from the Dress to Kill tour, he's certainly more like, I don't want to say in the background, but he's not that front guy. He's not in the front of the stage. So definitely, you know, definitely I agree with what your point is. So, you know, let's just jump in. The 4 albums, how do you rank them?
You know, I just feel this is a hard one for the top 2. You know, I think most times when you read and you hear people talk, they say Aces is the best. But I think, you know, Paul's album, does that have 9 tunes on that? Refresh my memory.
Paul had 9. Paul and Ace both had 9.
All right, but Ace had 9, including the instrumental. Okay. So I don't know. I gravitate more towards Paul's. I just think song to song, you know, I made a comment. I said, I think when we did the Ace album first, I said, can you come up with a better opening song than Rip It Out? And I think you can with Paul's Tonight You Belong to Me. And remember, when I said that, I hadn't gotten to that point of re-listening to Paul's, and I'm just like, and it was just kind of a general statement. I wasn't saying the ultimate of, you know, opening songs, but
it was the excitement of listening to and saying, damn, what a great kick-ass opener this is.
But I think overall, I'm just, because of Paul's voice, his you know, maybe his singing and stuff like that, I'm just gonna give his the edge. I just think if you go song for song, and you know, this is a tough decision. Trust me, it's really tough. And you'll see another reason, because I don't want to reveal something else right now of why I also think that. But I'm gonna go with Paul's. And
so you'll go with Paul over Ace, and then the Gene and Peter.
I'm gonna go Peter Gene.
Peter Gene, right? Yeah. So I think I'm.
And this is the point again where people go, Peter Gene, isn't it Gene Peter? No.
No. You know, and I'm close, not 100%, right? So I'll say Gene. I'll put last because I just feel like there's a few duds on there. You know, whether it's a True Confessions, it's because some of the other things that we spoke about there. I just feel there's a few duds on that. Whereas Peter's is not stylistically what you'd expect, but I said it on that episode. There's a lot of good songs on that album. So I'll go Gene. I'll go Peter. I went back and forth thinking about this. Ace, Paul. I mean, this is a huge debate amongst Kiss fans. And like you said, you could go either way on this. I feel like today, whatever it is, September 12th that we're recording this?
Yes.
I give the nod to Ace's album. And here's my reasoning why there. When we spoke about the Paul album, for me, there was 2 songs that are not duds. There's no songs like on the Gene album on this one, but Love in Chains and Ain't Quite Right to me were very average. And I don't think there's anything, those 2 songs I think are the worst 2 songs between the Ace and the Paul albums. I go back and forth and say, well, are the high points on Paul's album, you know, Wouldn't You Like to Know Me, Tonight You Belong to Me, are those high points higher? It's so close. It is so damn close. I mean, we were blessed to get 2 incredible albums, but today I think I'll go Ace over Paul. If we record another one of these again tomorrow, I might choose Paul over Ace. But today I think I'm going to go Ace over Paul. And you know, it's a little bit different than what you said, so that's good also.
It's always got to be a little different. Actually, we often agree on this on the same.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, okay. I mean, you named the 2 Paul songs that you thought were average or below. And there's one that what's the one that I'm not really a fan of? I mentioned it during.
Was it Wiped Out or?
No. On the Paul record.
On the Paul record.
Come
Love and
on, help me
Chains,
out.
I thought was the one. Love and Chains is the one I thought
I
you
think it
didn't
was Love and
like.
Chains. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah, yeah.
Not
So
horrible, not a bad song. It's
no,
just, you know, I don't
right,
know. I think it's like, the weakest song on the
absolutely.
record.
Look, you can't go wrong with either one of these albums. To me, if somebody, a rock fan, hasn't heard these and they want to get a taste of Kiss, I start with Kiss albums first. But there's nothing. Both of these albums would probably be in my top 10 overall Kiss albums, and they're both just that great to me.
And I know that What's on Your Mind is one of your favorite Kiss songs,
Yep,
period. So, and I
yep,
figured that was going to weigh into your equation here.
absolutely,
Um, I'm,
absolutely.
I'm not sure. Is that like a top 10 for you, that tune? I mean, I know it's hard to think right off this.
Maybe a top 20. I've been thinking
Okay.
about putting together a listing of my top, I'll say 250 Kiss songs from worst to
Uh-huh.
best, just to kind of see, we always talk about like top 10, top 20. When reality comes and you really list this, would it really make a top 20? I think yes, but it's one of my upper echelon songs. I'll say that.
Yeah. So where would Tonight You Belong to Me fall in then?
Both Tonight You Belong to Me and Wouldn't You Like to Know Me have to be considerations for top 20. Have to
So
be.
think about what you're just saying right there.
Yes,
Three
yes,
potential.
agreed.
I think that's another exercise for us. We'll put it on
Yeah,
the list, on the
on the
to-do
list
list.
of absolutely, absolutely, and which is why I say you can't go wrong with either of these
Hmm.
albums. And I'll be curious. You'll get a lot of people once we post this. They'll comment either one, Paul Ace, Paul Ace.
Yeah.
I'll be really controversial for 10 seconds.
I like
When
this
I
part.
went through this, I said to myself,
Self.
could self, could I consider the Peter Criss album to be just like one step below Paul and Ace in terms of overall quality? Now, again,
Ooh.
I'm not going to go to the
Ooh, I
Peter.
like that. Ooh, you know how
I'm
I feel
not
about
going to
that
go to
Peter
the
record.
Peter album. I'm not going to go to the Peter album anywhere near as often as the Paul and Ace because of my musical taste. But I still stand by the fact that Peter's album, I think it's 10 songs, and there are a lot of well-written, good songs,
Absolutely.
well-produced.
Hmm.
And, yes, I'm not saying that there's any songs like Tonight You Belong to Me, Wouldn't You Like to Know Me, What's on Your Mind, Rip It Out. There's no songs like that. But there are just, in my opinion, a lot. So I sat there and I said, I can't rank Peter above either of those two. I'll be crucified in the Kiss community, right? And I don't think that's better than either of those two. But how far off of it is it from those? And so many people say, "Oh, Peter's album sucks." I strongly disagree.
I'll tell you why, and without knowing for fact why I think that is. I
Mm-hmm.
think the fact that Vinnie Poncia produced that record, and when the songs were brought in of possibilities, I think being that he was a great producer or is a great producer, I
Mm-hmm.
think he really managed that well to make sure that every song on that record had some staying power per se.
Yeah, yeah.
Where I think, Gene had Sean Delaney. Not that Sean Delaney wasn't a talented guy, and Ace had Eddie Kramer again, tremendously. He's a
Absolutely. Yep.
legend.
Yep.
And Paul had, I think, was it Jeff Glicksman or somebody who helped him
Yep.
with that
Mm-hmm.
record, but it was mostly
Yep.
Paul.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
I would suggest for people to do a search on YouTube. I was watching it last night, or actually listening to the writing sessions of Sure Know Something,
Mm-hmm.
and listen to Vinnie Poncia. It's really hard to hear. It's
Mm-hmm.
really hard to hear because it's kind of muffled sounding. But you hear Vinnie and Paul really writing, kind of running the show. And as a
Mm-hmm.
matter of fact, if you listen to Sure Know Something and you hear those high harmony vocals, I could
Yep.
swear it's Vinnie singing with him.
Interesting. Interesting.
Because you'll see on those records that Vinnie produced that he gets background vocal credits.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Interesting.
as an aside,
As an aside,
yeah,
absolutely. So, yeah, I'm not suggesting that the Peter album is as good as Aces or Paul's,
neither am I.
but certainly I don't think it's anywhere near as bad. Like Peter over Gene was easy for me because I think Gene had a few clunkers on that one. And I would put Peter's album up against some of those 80s Kiss albums and say Peter's album is
Ooh,
better than
another
overall.
debate. I like
Than,
this.
yeah, the
You're
overall better
planting
than like,
seeds, my friend.
yeah, better than to me like Hot in the Shade, better than probably than Animalize. Yeah, maybe some of those albums have one or two songs that are peaking better than Peter's, but again, as an album in totality, I think there's a lot of decent songs on Peter's album.
And that's how we usually approach things. We
Yeah.
we don't we don't approach it as how people have perceived it historically.
Hmm.
We really try to think about Forget about the genre that it sounded like, that Peters was
Right.
maybe a throwback. We're not
Mm-hmm.
giving it negative points because of that.
Right.
And I think we said in some ways the fact that he took a chance and said, you know what, I'm not going to try to make this sound like, Baby Driver or, a
Right.
tune like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to make it whatever he wanted it to be, or what him and Vinny thought it should
Mm-hmm.
be,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Peter probably says, listen, these are my roots. This is what's in my heart. I want to come out with a record that's really, truly me. And,
Absolutely.
maybe Vinny battled him at first, but maybe he didn't. We don't know. I would love to know
Right.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what do you think of the overall packaging of the album, right? So I think, and I'm going to duck over for a second. So you can see on my wall right over here, right? I've always got the solo albums, all four signed, proudly displayed. I think the artwork is amazing. Yep, there you go. The best of the solo albums, very appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of the overall artwork that they did for this album and the packaging, the posters, and all of that?
Tremendous. I always thought the posters looked a little goofy. I don't know. There was something
Hmm.
about, now, was it the same artist who did the front painting who did the posters?
No, no, no.
Yeah.
They're different people. They're
Yeah.
different people. And supposedly those posters, I think they had like a weekend to get them done,
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
much.
They had the feeling of looking a little unrefined, like their
Hmm.
faces and stuff like that. I don't know. I thought overall, I think I might have said it before. These covers are so iconic. I mean,
Hmm.
every time I look at them, I'm just like amazed on how good. What's his name? Geraldo? Something Geraldo?
Yeah,
Something,
yeah.
something.
You don't look. I can't pronounce my own
Karate,
name properly.
karate,
Yeah,
karate,
something
something like that.
exactly.
I
Yep.
mean, just tremendous. And again, how Kiss was doing things at the times with the different colors, order
Hmm.
forms matching in color.
Hmm. Hmm.
You had your poster, you had your sleeve. Oh, this is just this is an import, but it had the
Right.
sleeve that had, again,
Four albums. Yep.
promoting.
Hmm.
I mean, again, you're buying a Peter Criss record, but you're being reminded, hey, there's another 3 records out there in case you don't
Absolutely.
know. Just
Absolutely.
totally brilliant. On the actual label itself, they would have, again, the image that was on the front cover on the
Hmm.
label. It
Yep.
just,
Yep. Yep.
Casablanca at that time, top notch. I mean,
Yeah. I
something
agree.
I fear we do see some of the stuff with the reissues, but a
Hmm.
lot of new artists who release records, you don't see. I don't think you're ever going to see that again.
Yep.
So
No, no, I agree. And I'm glad you just brought up the colors and that. So
yeah,
Kiss fans rightly so point to the solo albums with the colors and because that's really where it became predominant. You might not know because you don't follow all the nitty gritty details as close as I do, but I think there was like a keychain or something like that. That was like a year and a half prior that had the colors on there or a key like pin or something like that. And that's where the colors started. But to me, most Kiss fans don't recognize that. The
what's
colors
this? What's
really
this pin? What was the pin of?
I think there's one of each member, and each member is in a different color, and it's the purple, the red, the green, the blue, right?
But
But
was it their
it was,
face, or was it what? I don't know if I've ever
I
seen
think it
this.
was the signatures, if I remember right. No, it's
Ah,
yeah, and they were in each of the colors. Those watching who collect all this stuff even more than I do might
yeah,
remember better than me, but I remember there was some pin or keychain or whatever it was that came out like a year and a half beforehand in the colors. And
yeah.
that was the start of the colors. But certainly the solo albums is what brought it to the forefront of every average Kiss fan's mind. And that also to me was absolutely brilliant to
Mm,
choose those different colors to the point that like I remember, I think it was Kiss Cruise 2 or Kiss Cruise 3 when I went on it. They did cups for each day like they do every year. Only the people running the six man at the time didn't realize that each Kiss member had a signature color. And it was
yeah.
actually hilarious because oddly enough, they actually picked 3 of the 4 colors from the
Oh,
solo
really?
albums. Only like Paul's cup is red, Eric's cup is purple, whatever it was.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
mixed up. And Kiss fans had a lot of fun with it. They realized, that it was just a six-man person randomly choosing colors. And it's a decade later, and they still give that six-man person a lot of like ribbon and fun
yeah,
over it. But
yeah.
my point is that the colors were so identifiable to each member that when you looked at something like a cup, you're like, no, a Gene Simmons cup can't be green. It has to be red,
Right.
And I think that's to me
Yeah,
that really came out of the solo albums more than anything.
yeah. That's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. And now just thinking about it, think about Dynasty, right?
Mm-hmm.
First, Peter's makeup, it was just all the black. Then he started adding the
Yep.
green in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even
Mm-hmm.
on
Yep.
on the cover of Dynasty, I don't know if Ace really did this. he did on the cover of Dynasty where he's almost got a blue eyeshadow or whatever the heck, not eyeliner.
Yep.
He just put that on there because almost. So, but Gene and Paul, I guess they still stuck with the black. There's no red in this. There's
Gene
no purple.
has, I think, one photo shoot with red around his eyes. If I remember right, it is the Phantom of the Park photo shoot that he did in July of, so maybe it's like the press conference. Maybe it's not a photo shoot, it's a press conference. It's the only one I can remember where he has red around his eyes. And Peter did start some of the green, I think as early as like 76, 77. But again, it wasn't like on the album cover. So it wasn't Dynasty, to your point. It was the first time it was right there in your face.
That's right. Because I mentioned Dynasty because that was released after the solo album.
Afterwards. Absolutely.
But I guess so, Paul, there's no documented of Paul having any sort of purple on his, other than those Dynasty outfits, which were woof.
Yeah. Yeah, you see, I like some of those Dynasty outfits, as crazy and out there as they are. They're so different than what anything Kiss
did. At the time, I thought it was great, but now I look back, it just seems like too much. I mean, thankfully Peter didn't come out with.
Keep talking.
Right. No, I could have got my cups too.
Here we go. Look.
See, favoring Peter again. Got two green
Paul
cups.
Stanley, red. Just something about it looks wrong. Tommy Thayer. Purple. I mean, it's just kind of funny. This one they actually got, quote unquote, right. Green for Eric Singer. And then blue for Gene Simmons.
It looks so wrong, right? Doesn't it? It looks so wrong.
I was like, as you're talking, I'm like, wait, I think I have these like right over my shoulder here on the side. I was like, I got to get them. Get them.
Awesome.
So, anyway, so no,
are those for sale?
To me, that's a really. What was that?
Are those for sale?
No, they're not for sale. Sorry.
Okay.
Not even the extra Eric Singer cup that I have. So no, I think that's a cool thing that came out of the solo albums, even if it didn't originate from there. Certainly that's where it came to the forefront. So before we get into our best ofs, another thing I have to ask you, right? So you can see I have them hung on the wall behind me, and they're in the same sequence as you have best of solo albums: Paul, Gene, Peter, Ace. Right? That's, to me, if you're putting these albums left to right. Is there a sequence for you? Because I'm asking you this question because I see some people put online, like they'll hang up their posters and they have like Gene, Paul, Ace, Peter, and it drives me crazy. I'm like, no, that's not in the right order. I saw one guy do like Paul, Gene, Ace, Peter, and I'm just like, no, get those down. They're wrong. Am I a nut, or do you see them in a certain sequence also?
I do. I think because, I mean, that's the iconic, look from the sleeve and everything like that. And, again, we're lunatics. We're Kiss fans, right? We try to, get things to look exactly how they were presented to us in a lot lot of ways. I unfortunately don't have Paul signed yet. I don't know if I'll ever get Paul signed. Paul, if you're listening, please come on. What do you got to do these days? I'll ship it to you. I'll pay for the shipping, for Christ's sake. Right now I have them just in a row down this way because of you've been in my studio upstairs. I have a guitar. I have a Paul Stanley guitar next to it. But if I had the opportunity with the wall space like you have, I would do it in the same sequence as the.
So when if the day comes, you get all four signed and they're going down in a row like that, do you do Paul, Gene, Peter, Ace, or do you do them in some other sequence?
I think I'm going to do it as like a Billboard chart, and then I'll move them around. Well, this week, I feel like Ace is number one. Right, this one goes down there. You remember? I don't know what TV show they used to do that. They used to take the things out. I think it was American Bandstand.
Like the record stores in the 70s, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, how cool would that be?
10. Yeah.
But
I expect that next time I come to your house.
Well, first I got to get Paul's record signed,
Right.
You have an extra one lying back there. Yours is signed. Why don't you just give me yours?
I'll think about that. I'll let you know.
All right. That's enough.
I'll let you know.
So, I would definitely do it just to what you said. I would do it in the order. Just, that's vertical. Is this vertical? Horizontal?
Yeah, that's vertical.
Vertical. I got to think about that. I do it vertically. Yeah.
Yes.
It's Saturday morning. I had 2 sips of coffee. Please, folks, cut me some slack.
Absolutely. But, it's funny because I've debated this with really big Kiss fans and Kiss collectors who don't agree that that's the right sequence. I'll fight this one to my death. You can have any opinion you want on the albums, the songs. You could list them anyway. I don't care. But I'll fight you to the death on the way that they need to be laid out.
So What are they thinking? Are they thinking because the ranking of the quality of the record, they think it should be another
I,
way?
I have seen people say that it should be like Gene, Paul, Peter, Ace, or Gene, Ace, Peter, Paul, like Gap, I think they say it should be.
Peter,
I've
Paul, and
seen,
Mary? No, that's another group. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I've seen there's one guy, Andrew, who I chatted with on my show, and he's very predominant, has done some great Kiss films. I think he hung his up, Paul, Gene, um, Ace Peter is the sequence, and I see him post the pictures. And I always give him a hard time online. I'm like, Andrew, come on, you're like one of the biggest Kiss fans. No, that's wrong.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, fight me. That's the way I'm keeping it. And look,
Yeah.
everybody can do it the way they want, but it drives me crazy. It
Yeah.
drives me crazy. So anyway, that's something else with the solo albums to me that even if you look at the posters, I think if you lay them out and connect them to each other, I think they go Paul, Gene, Peter, Ace, the way it's supposed to be.
Now the big question here is, are the talisman on your shirt in the correct order?
No, they're not. But since it's not solo album, I'll let it slide.
Okay, all right. Because I want to make sure we set the record straight, for your apparel.
Yes, that's a very fair point. But just going back to the posters, I agree with you. They are, a little childish, a little maybe not as complete as one would maybe think a Kiss product would be. The pictures inside, I don't know how many people realize, and even the album covers themselves are actually taken from different photos that actually exist. And there's a couple of people online who have really found, like, if you look at the posters, and there's one like Paul jumping in the air with like the guitar and his legs spread, that's an actual real photo. Most of those
I didn't know that.
Most of those drawings are coming from real photos, which is pretty cool. And even the solo album covers, I think, and I'm not the best with this, but 3 of the 4 solo album covers, I think, come from Love Gun photos.
Really?
That exists. Yeah. So I'll try to see if I can find them online. If I could, I'll superimpose them in here. But if you look at some of the stuff side by side, they were actually just paintings from photos that existed, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah. So, and also, one of the things about the posters, the fact that they made them like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Again. Yeah. Brilliant on Casablanca part. You don't want to have a poster with a notch in it. You got to buy the other record to fill them. I mean, again, I want to know who the brainchild or childs of these ideas were.
Absolutely. So, all right, let's get to our best of solo albums, right? So what we said is that we wanted to choose our version of the best of solos, 3 songs from each album that we think would make our ideal best of solo album. So would you like to go first there, buddy?
No, I'm going to let the host go first.
Oh, boy, the hostess with the mostest.
Yeah, so are we going to do each record and then what our top 3 is?
Alternate? Well, I just jotted down on a little, index card, what my songs were, because I wasn't going to have this memorized. So, and you probably did it nice in the computer. So
of course, it's right there.
Yeah. Right, I'm low tech. I give you the low tech sound effects, and I know I think one of your friends commented on the sound effects.
My friend Super Mario.
Right. So that's right. So thanks Super Mario for the comment. It made me crack up. And so now I go from low tech sound effects to low tech ways of keeping track of this stuff for me. I'm on a cheap little index card, but I'm just gonna go each of the 4 albums.
I feel like you're a game show host now with that index card.
I feel like
Go ahead, Jim Lang, go.
That's right. The top 3 answers are on the board.
The password is
name a place you would like to listen to a Kiss album. So anyway,
I'm actually thinking about that. Don't start going in that direction, because we can continue with this guy.
I'm doing like a Family Feud episode. I'm like Richard Dawson right now.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, I just have the 4 albums here with 3 songs from each album. So I'll give you my ideal best of solo albums. These are the 3 songs I feel, for me, represent each of the albums the best. All right. So for Paul, I chose Tonight You Belong to Me, Wouldn't You Like to Know Me, and Take Me Away Together as one. That last slot could have gone a couple of different ways, but I said, you know what? Paul's got a couple of ballads there. I think Take Me Away is an incredible song. Those are going to be my 3 Paul songs. For Gene, I went Radioactive, Mr. Make Believe, and See You Tonight. I felt those 3 were good indicative of what his album is like. Good indication, not good indicative. Poor English. The Peter Criss album, I went with You Matter to Me, I Can't Stop the Rain, incredible song, by the way, and Hooked on Rock and Roll, I felt was good representation from Peter's album. And Ace, I did Rip It Out, Speed, and Back to My Baby, and of course, my favorite song, maybe of all the solo albums, What's on Your Mind. I'm not leaving that out.
I
That's
knew
my
that.
best of the solo albums.
Okay, excellent. I think we have one that's the same, and I think that was Paul. Tonight
Okay, I was
you,
like one song. I was like, no freaking
no, no,
way.
no, 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 no. Tonight you belong to me. Take me away. Together as one. And wouldn't you like to know me?
Okay.
Um, Peter, I kind of went back and forth with this, but ultimately I went with "You Matter to Me," "I Can't Stop the Rain," and "Don't Let Me Down." I know you're not a huge fan of that tune, "Don't Let Me
Yeah.
Down," but I still love it. And when Peter did that vocal, I think about a month ago,
Hmm.
again, it just reassured my feeling about that tune. I love that tune.
Yep. I
Um,
understand.
Gene, yeah, this is a
And
little tough one.
my
Again,
pause. You see, that's what I love about Peter's album. You just list those three songs. I'm like, I might not love "Don't You Let Me Down," but I'm like, oh, those are three good choices. There's
yeah,
nothing wrong with those. There's nothing I'm sitting there saying, ooh, how do you choose that? Yeah.
and I love the opener to that record. "I'm Gonna
Yeah.
Love You." I think it's a great song. So I was like going back and forth with that song and "Don't Let Me Down."
Yeah.
Or was it "Don't
And
You
I
Let Me Down"?
right.
Is it
I
"Don't
had
Let
it
Me
on repeat
Down" or
straight
"Don't You
through.
Let Me Down"? What is it? "Don't Let
I
Me
think it's
Down," right?
"Don't You Let Me Down." No, I think it's "Don't You Let Me Down."
Come on, fact check this. It says it say on the album credit, "Don't You Let Me Down," or it says "Don't Let Me Down."
Uh,
Stump
you
the
have the
Brun.
albums that
Stump the
you have
Brun.
the. I thought it was "Don't You Let Me Down," but you have the albums at your
Is it on
disposal
this
there
record?
now.
Is it? It's not on that. It didn't make that best of solo, but
All
okay.
right.
Okay.
Anyway,
Anyways, where did I leave
mhm.
off? Gene.
Gene.
Again, this is a tough record. See You Tonight, obviously. Radioactive. And I don't know, there's something about "Living in Sin" that's kind of just
Mhm.
iconic to that record. It's the first song on the second side. It's got the whole shared thing. It's got the
Yeah.
infamous bass slap that we all
Right.
love. I'm so attached to that song.
Mhm.
Maybe there was another song that I don't know. I like "Mr. Make Believe." I think that's a cool tune. Also, I love the strings at the end. But ultimately, I just feel like "Living in Sin" is a little bit more iconic to the record.
I can
And
say it.
lastly, and this is something that I kind of went back and forth. "Rip It Out" for Ace, "Speeding Back to My Baby," and I picked "New York Groove." And the reason
Mhm.
why I did is because it's such an iconic song.
Mhm.
It's such a simple song, but such a great song. Even though Ace didn't write it,
Mhm.
I don't know. I just think, again, representing the record, how could you not leave off a song that was hugely successful? Sometimes songs are hugely successful, and you're like, oh my God, I don't
Mhm.
understand why this song was
Mhm.
so. Now you go back and listen to it. Oh, this didn't age well. New York
Mhm.
Groove ages really well. I mean,
Absolutely.
so much that sporting arenas, newscasts, would use it. But there are
Mhm.
another couple. I love "Snowblind" off that record.
Mhm.
There's a
Mhm.
couple other tunes, which kind of wants me to circle back a little bit too. When we were debating and I didn't bring this up, and shame on me, Ace and Paul. Again, Ace had "New York Groove" on that record, which was a
Mhm.
great song, but he didn't write it. Again, going
Right.
back,
Mhm.
Ace had a instrumental and a cover, where
Mhm.
Paul pretty much wrote everything on that record. So that
Yeah.
was another reason why I gave Paul the edge on that.
Mhm. Mhm. Yep.
So
It's understandable. And look, in terms of your best stuff, including New York Groove, I was very conscious that I left that out, not
mm,
purposely, but
yeah,
it's not one of my top three songs. There's no doubt any record label that's putting out a best of solo albums, New York Groove is going to be on there. It was the biggest hit of
yeah,
the four albums, right? So
right,
yeah, I recognize that. I know that what you've done with your three is probably the standard three that most people would put on there.
yeah.
Certainly record label people. In fact, I know you're looking over at it, right
And
now, the best of
it's
solo
my
albums.
order. Well, it's
It's
my
yours, yeah.
three
That's what I
songs.
figured.
Yeah,
That's what I figured.
yeah.
No record label
So
is gonna choose what's on your mind over New York Groove. I know that.
right. So let's cover a couple things. First of all,
Yeah.
the best of the solos that came out. This was a import in, I think, in West Germany. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
hence the
Mm-hmm.
the logo change for those
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
what I find interesting about this, to what we were talking about a little earlier, side one starts with Ace Frehley and then Peter Criss.
Mm-hmm.
Side two is Gene and Paul.
Yeah.
So to the extent of the order,
Mm-hmm.
they went boom, 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 boom. They went this way.
Yeah. Yeah. They went back
I
almost like backwards. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
And think about it also, the fact that Kiss authorized and approved a side A of an album to be straight up Ace and Peter, right? That the Paul and Gene allowed that, you know?
yeah, yeah. If that truly is the case, and I
Yeah.
tend to think that it was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was something else I wanted to mention about this record. Oh, I just wanted to mention what the three songs of each artist were.
Yeah.
So Ace, you had New York Group, Riff It Out, and Speeding Back to My Baby. Peter, you got You Matter to Me, Tossing and Turning, or Turning, and Hooked on Rock and Roll. Gene,
which is, by the way, spelled probably on yours as Hooked on Rock and Roll.
It does say that. Wow. Never knew that. Is this a collector's item?
No, they're almost all like that, but most people don't recognize the typo there.
Wow. Awesome.
Continue, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's a nice catch there. Okay, Gene, Radioactive, Mr. Make Believe, See You in Your Dreams. Paul, Tonight You Belong to Me, Move On, Hold Me, Touch Me, which, again, that was one that was hard for me to not include because I love that tune.
Right, and Hold Me, Touch Me was the single from Paul's album, so that's why the record label was putting that on there.
Right.
Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah.
I'll be very curious to see what the fans say their 12 best of solo album songs would be.
Yeah. I'm sure we're going to get people again who are going to look at us like we're crazy. I think there's a lot of common ground here for us Kiss fans, but there'll certainly be some debate on, even people wanting even to include Peter in the match. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. That's probably true. Yeah, some people will probably say, "I'll do 12 songs, none from Peter's album."
Right. Yeah. Right. That was my point.
Which to me is just, I'll say, close-minded about, and I get it. People just like the hard rock thing, but all right, I'm not going to go off on that tangent again.
Yeah.
To me, the interesting thing with the albums also is that most people know Ace's album sold the most, right? It had the biggest hit on it. But Gene's album is the one that actually charted the highest, which is a little unusual or odd given that Ace had the hit. But Gene actually charted like 5 or 6 spots higher than Ace's album ever did, which is interesting. And to me, I find this kind of stuff interesting. Also, Paul's album, the lead singer, the frontman of Kiss, was on the charts for the least amount of weeks, which is just, that blows my mind. That Paul, the face in some ways of, I know Gene was the face, but Paul was the voice of Kiss. And his album was on the charts for the least. Now, again, Billboard charts back then, who the hell knows, right? But I just find those stats interesting.
Yeah, we don't know. Well, we do know there was a lot of money and drugs and stuff that was going back and forth to record stations, radio stations.
Radio stations. I knew
the two together. You know what I meant. Radio stations who knows if, I don't know, but was the record company trying to push one more than the other? Were they trying to push Aces more because he still wasn't as established in the vocally as Peter had a huge hit with Beth, so who knows? We don't know.
Right, absolutely. And we touched on the posters, and I just think even the merchandise that came out with this, right? They had solo album posters, which are some of them very valuable these days. They had the 4 albums together on one poster. There's different, I think in the order form, you could get like keychains and things. I just think that this was, a whole great marketing all around. And in more recent years now, I know that they put out like the best of solos on like color vinyl or not, it was like a splash vinyl of some sort, right? Do you have that?
Yes.
Right. I thought.
Yeah, I have the box set. It's over there.
Okay.
Over there. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. They put out the 40th anniversary box set also. That's right.
Right, which has the colored vinyl, which is, it's a really nice pack. Look, Kiss these days is putting out everything. I just saw that they put out a 45th anniversary of Alive with a colored vinyl. As I've told you, I'm coming off the train. I can't keep, because they'll do a 50th, they'll do a 55th, they'll do a 60th. I mean, just a quick aside here. When we were younger, we were trying to get those original records because they had a certain value to them. I think, we as Kiss fans, understandably so, we get on the train and we just think we have to have this. But what is really going to be the true value from 10, 20 years from now, we don't really know. But to keep up with on this train, it's really hard because there's just so much product.
Absolutely.
Ace releases a solo record and he's got like 4, 5, 6 variants of splattered vinyl and this and stuff. But,
Right. No, but I think that there was a splattered vinyl for the solo albums that came out in the last year or two. And then I think to the point you made, there was a box set. The splattered was a best of solos. And then there's a box set. Right, and then
the one you
the
got
box
for me.
set also. Right, that's right. I did get a few. Yes, and then there's the box set, which the box set was really nice. Those colored vinyls, are beautiful, well done. They've got like little lithographs inside that are really great looking prints of the albums.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great package.
Yeah.
Like you just said, I'm kind of off the train also, but that's a package. If you're on the fence about collecting some of the newest stuff, well worth it. Really well done.
Yeah, I think, and now they go for about $150. I
Yep.
think originally they were $200.
Yep.
So if you average it out, what each record costs, I mean, I think the record store day record that I said I wasn't going to buy, of the Ace Frehley, I have it over here, was
Uh-huh.
$40. It's
Right.
not cheap.
Right.
We
No.
grew up a record $6, $7. You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
call.
Right. No, no, you're right. They're not cheap right now, but some of the box set I think is well worth the price, and I think that's where you're going with this. Is that yeah, it's
Yeah.
like $35 an album. It's you get the lithographs, you get a reprint of the posters, you get a beautiful colored vinyl.
Do I have to
It's a nice
show it?
package.
Do I have
No,
to
no,
show it?
I
Okay.
think a lot of people here know what it looks like.
Okay.
But
All
I think you have it
right.
handy. I think another cool thing just to mention with the solo albums is Julian Gill, longtime
You
Kiss
heard the
fan.
noise?
There you go. He did an amazing book. There you go, right? So I think I have it as well, right?
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
I love the detailed exploration of the 1978 Kiss solo albums, and it's like 300 some odd pages long. If you're
Yeah.
into solo albums the way we are talking about it, you read this book, and I haven't read it in a couple of years, right? But you read this book, and it's just loaded with interviews and details and all this minutia that you could ever dream about for these albums.
And they like I just opened it up. 50
Uh-huh.
fun facts relating to the 78 solo albums. Paul Stanley is the only 78 solo album not containing a cover song. Stuff like this.
Okay, right, which I had mentioned on his.
Oh,
I want. Yeah.
Casablanca spent 2.5 million on marketing support and collateral merchandising. It's all cool
Right.
stuff.
It's all cool stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Julian did an amazing job with these books. So, if you haven't picked it up, I think they're available on Amazon. Don't quote me on that. I've had my book for a few years. I have the hardcover. It looks like you have the soft cover. Well worth whatever the price is that Julian's charging. He's a great guy, and it's a great book. Great, great book.
Absolutely. I endorse this purchase.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trying to see what
I'm trying to see what to please.
No, I'm very critical, but again, I think this book maybe is under $20 now. Maybe I don't know, but I'm trying to see a price thing. Yeah, right.
Probably
look at this
there.
thing. Look at this thing.
Yeah, very nice.
And I think he also did.
I love the cover art.
Yeah. Did he also do the book on the Elder?
The Elder, yep.
Another great book.
And he did one on Crazy Nights also, which was
really. I didn't
cool
know about that one.
Yeah. There's a Crazy Nights one also.
Ooh, I think somebody's going to Amazon right after this.
Oh, there you go.
You know how I feel about Crazy Nights.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a cool book. So, all right. Anything else on the solo albums that we could think of that we haven't mentioned here?
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot of bases, and then if you want
That's
more bases, buy the book.
There you go. Well said. So,
Yeah.
like I started off saying, I don't think many other bands could have ever pulled off something like this. So I look back on this and I say it is incredible what Kiss accomplished. It's something the Beatles, in all of their glory and all of their popularity, never even attempted at the time. It's something that other bands have not tried because, quite honestly, their band members, some of them, would never be able to pull off a solo album, or there wouldn't be interest in it. The fact that Kiss pulled it off successfully. I know people say, oh, they didn't sell millions of copies of each album. This was a success overall for them, right? It's something that Kiss fans love. They put out still 4 good albums, some better than others, but each album has songs on it that are pretty damn good, and it's incredible to me that all these years later, we can look back on this and say, hey, this is something really cool that Kiss did that really no other band of their stature ever did.
Yeah, and there were, and again, looking back, there were bands, even like The Who, that each member had a solo record out at a particular point of that career, even before the 78 solo album. Keith Moon was not a good singer at all, you know what I mean? But he put out a record and blah, blah, blah. So there were even big bands like I said, like The Who, the Stones did it. I don't know if Charlie Watts really ever did it. Maybe later in life he did like a couple of jazz records, but Bill Wyman and Richards had records out. But anyways,
all band members at the same time.
But also, let's also remember that the reason why these records came out was because there was some tension in the band. And I don't know if it was Ace or Peter and there's the story that we overhear is, well, why don't we all put out solo records? You know what I
Right.
mean?
And
So
it was in their contract from 2 years prior that
yeah,
they could have solo albums and would count, I think, like a half an album in the
right,
contract, right?
right,
So there's obviously thoughts about it. But my point is they pulled it off,
yeah,
whereas most bands can't pull it off,
yeah,
So that's always, to me, that's where I started this one. That's where I want to close on this, is that, as much as you may prefer one album over the other, look at what Kiss accomplished with this project. And it's really second to no other band ever trying anything like this. It's really an incredible feat, an incredible accomplishment, and
hmm
a testament to all four members that they were able to put out product that sold and did well on the charts and still had some great songs on each album.
And also, let's not forget, for all those critics who always, Kiss, oh, they're this kiddie band, they're not good musicians. I got one thing to say about that.
There
Okay,
you go.
so for those people
Uh,
who, I think that's another thing that Kiss proved. Like all these guys are good musicians,
mhm,
and Peter's a great singer. You could have said, oh, Eric Carr was a better drummer, and Eric Singer's a better drummer.
mhm,
That's debatable.
mhm.
That we'll save that for another discussion because you know how I
Another
feel about
whole
that.
episode, right? Yep. Mhm.
But singers of the three, I mean, they all could sing, but Peter to me is the iconic voice behind the drums. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So, I mean, there's talent, and they all had it in different ways and different and totally different sounding. That's the thing that really brought out with these records. Listen to the four individual voices. None of them. Well, Paul kind of sounds like Peter here, or Ace kind of
Right.
sounds like. There's no cross pollination there. It's
Hmm.
just
No, agreed.
four individual guys that had their
Hmm.
own identifiable sound. Like when you hear Ozzy's voice, that
Yep.
only can be Ozzy. When you hear
Hmm.
Tom Petty, it's only Tom Petty. There's the
Hmm.
same thing with Kiss, and that's
Yep.
what makes Kiss so fucking cool. In
Yep.
my opinion. Now I'm
Absolutely.
getting
And
worked
and
up. Now I'm
and,
getting
and
worked
even
up.
even musically, some of the songs on Paul's album you'd never hear Ace do. The songs on
Absolutely.
Peter's album Paul would never do, and so on and so forth, right? So it's not just the voices, it's the music, it's the full package, and to me that's part of what makes Kiss so great.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I
So
agree.
we'll just close this by saying to people, like we mentioned during this episode, give us your ranking of the four albums. Give us your best of what 12
Mm,
songs you'd put on the best of.
mm.
Let me know about the sequencing. Am I completely nuts saying it has to be a certain way, or do you have a different sequence? Does it go Paul, Gene, Peter, Race, or do you have it in some other sequence?
Right.
And just let us know what you think about the entire project as a whole. I'd love to hear Kiss fans' thoughts on what other bands maybe could have done this as well as Kiss did, if any. So I think you brought up the Eagles, the Beatles. I mentioned Motley Crue, maybe. Who else
Hmm.
maybe could have done something like this? I think that's everything, though.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
this has been a glorious journey going
I
through
know. I'm
these.
actually kind of sad that it's over. I mean, I had so much
Yeah.
fun with this. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't have anything to look forward to in regards to this Kiss area, but we'll
Right.
find
Right.
something else. We always do. I already got a
We
couple things
always do.
brewing in my head.
There you go. So, like I said, I was saying, four other episodes are out there, one for each of the albums. Go check those out. Um, this is the fifth final episode in this whole sequence. And as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Alrighty, there you have it. We hope you enjoyed that episode, taking a look back at the 1978 Kiss solo albums. Let us know which albums are your favorite and which ones are your least favorite. I have a feeling I know where most Kiss fans will stand on that. Also, let us know what you think about the artwork and what other bands do you think could have ever tried to pull off something like this. I don't think there are many. We look forward to hearing your comments and feedback. Also, make sure you check out episodes 69 through 72, where we do a deep dive on each of the individual albums one by one, talking about what we like and don't like, which songs we think are standouts, and which songs we think are maybe not as good. I think you guys will really enjoy those episodes, so make sure you check them out. Again, episodes 69 through 72 on the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.